Namaste, everyone. Welcome to another session with the Destination Knowledge Center. We move from the cool climes of the eastern Himalayas that we saw yesterday to the Deccan region in the south of India today. We have with us Jayanti Rajgopalan, aka Jonty. She's an XLRI Jamshedpur graduate and comes with over 13 years of experience in sales, marketing, and program management. She has worked with prestigious organizations including Titan Industries and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. She moved to Hyderabad in the year 2006 and loved the wonderful mix of cultures. Being a part of a South Indian family, but growing up in North India, she believes Hyderabad is the perfect blend of the two. It's also here in Hyderabad that she started her company Detours India with the aim of marketing India in a different way. Today, she's here to share with us stories of the city of Nizams and the discoveries she has made here in the last decade. Over to you, Janti.
Hi, hello everyone. I thought we can start with this slide just so that I get everyone to smile a little bit. I think we're living in an age where, every other day or every day almost we're getting, webinar invites. And I think I've kind of had enough, but unfortunately the situation is such that even for people like us who work in an industry which thrives on, being outdoors, being in the midst of all the action of the city, we are forced to be staying at home. We in Hyderabad have to be at home for, almost the rest of the month. Till 29th, we have our lockdown on. But I thought we can do a little bit of exploration of the city through this presentation. Okay, just a little bit about Hyderabad. It's the fourth largest metro in India in terms of the population. According to the 2011, which is the most recent census, the population is close to 8 million people, but obviously it's a lot more now. And it has been a huge software hub since the mid 90s, and a lot of big companies like Microsoft, Google, and many other companies, Dell, etc. Everyone has big campuses here, big offices here in Hyderabad. And even before that, it has always been home to the big pharmaceutical and the biotech industry. Dr. Reddy's Labs is one name which comes to mind, who have had their headquarters in this part of the country for a very long time. Because of the huge, input or, influx of companies, especially the software companies, we've had huge infrastructure strides in the last 15, almost 20 years now. But the history of Hyderabad is a lot older than that. It actually started off as Golconda. Even before the city of Hyderabad was created, it started as Golconda. And today we will discover how it has moved from Golconda of the past to what we call Cyberabad, or the high-tech city of the present. It actually started as a small little shepherd's hillock about 1,000 years ago. And one of the Hindu rulers of this region decided that, because a shepherd found an idol of a goddess while they were grazing their sheep on this hillock, he said that let's make it a fortified town. So he fortified it with a mud fort, which eventually, was handed over as a part of a treaty with some of the later Muslim rulers, who then fortified it to being what we call today as the Golconda. So this is a more recent image of Golconda. And in the 16th century, it became the capital city of the Qutub Shahi rulers. The Qutub Shahi rulers were the first Muslim dynasty to be based out of the city of Hyderabad. And they fortified this over about 62 years. And the reason why Golconda became known throughout the world was because of the huge importance of trade that it had. And in fact, it was the only place in the world which traded diamonds. None of the other diamonds mines that we know of today had been discovered in the 16th century. And these rulers were of Persian origin, so they actually brought in a lot of their Persian brothers to come and do trade here. But because diamonds was such a big attraction to many people in the world, everyone came to Golconda and made a home for themselves. So you had, a lot of Persian traders, of course. You had Arabs, you had the Turks, you had French people coming in, you had people from Africa coming in here. So it became a hugely cosmopolitan culture way back in the 16th century, largely focused on the diamond trade. And a lot of the famous diamonds that we know of today, especially the Kohinoor diamond, which is on the crown jewels of Queen of England, actually come from these mines. The Golconda fort per se did not have the mines. The mines were closer to the coast. but the trading of the mine of the diamonds actually happened in the Golconda Fort, which is why it became a huge hub of other trade as well. And pearls and fabric and spices and everything started getting traded from here, because a lot of people would come from across the world to trade just to see what the diamonds looked like. Over a period of 62 years, from a simple little mud fort, it transformed into the stone fort that we know of today. And the rulers also built magnificent tombs right next to that. And they left behind a huge stamp of their architectural heritage, which is a mix of Indian and Persian culture. So if you look at the tombs closely, you'll see a beautiful confluence of the styles of the Persian architecture and the local Indian architectural styles. Because of the huge number of people who came in and made Golconda their home, the place became very, very crowded. Water shortages happened, and there's while we don't have exact historical evidence of the timings, but apparently a big plague as well, overtook the city. And therefore, in the year 1591, which actually corresponds to the Islamic calendar. So those of you who are familiar with the Hijri calendar or the Islamic calendar, 1591 equated the millennium year. So it was the 1000th year according to the Islamic calendar. And therefore, the fifth ruler of the dynasty decided to move the capital city from Golconda Fort to what we know as Hyderabad today. So there's a romantic story, of course, where the person who moved the capital city, he fell in love with a village girl from this village called Chichlam. And when he decided to shift the capital city, he said, I want it to be built, the center of the city should be the same place where I first laid eyes on my sweetheart. And her name was Bhagmati. So he named the city Bhagnagar, but it didn't really go down well with a few people who were upset that a Muslim ruler's dynasty is being given a Hindu name. And therefore he said, no problem. And he went and renamed his wife, and he started calling her Hyder Mahal. And then the city came to be known as Hyderabad. And Hyder was also, Hyder Ali was also the son-in-law of the Prophet of Muhammad, who was very important, Prophet Muhammad, who was very important to Shia Muslims. And therefore, those who want to disbelieve the romantic story say that the city was built the city was named because of Hyder. The trade continued to flourish. The new city that was built was not very far. It was about almost 9 miles as the crow flies from the Golconda Fort. And therefore, everyone moved from there. The city was planned in a certain way, planned to make sure that people had homes in a specific area. And the route that was being used by the traders to go to the fort then transformed into the market or the trading place. And people continued to pour in from all over the world and made the culture very, very cosmopolitan. So you hear travelers' accounts of what Hyderabad would be like, that you walk around the markets of Hyderabad and you hear multiple languages being spoken. You see people who look very different from each other, all living happily within the city. In 1687, by which time the Mughal rulers in the north had become very powerful, they came in and attacked Aurangzeb. For those of you who know a little bit about Indian history, I'm going to connect it. So the person who built Taj Mahal, the Mughal ruler who built Taj Mahal, his son took over the throne forcibly from his father, imprisoned his father. And anyone who has been to Taj Mahal would remember this poignant story of him looking at the reflection of the Taj Mahal from his jail. And that son who put the father in prison, he was the one who was extremely ambitious, came down south to the Deccan region and conquered this place. So there was a very, very frustrating siege for him of about 8 months where he was not able to get into the fort. And finally, bribery worked, managed to bribe somebody from inside the fort. That person opened the gates in the middle of the night and put an end to the first Muslim dynasty of this region, and established what we know as the Asaf Jahi dynasty, because Aurangzeb did the same thing. He left behind a set of governors and he went back to Delhi. And these governors eventually, after the death of Aurangzeb, declared themselves independent and created what we know as the Asaf Jahi dynasty, but we know them better as the Nizams of Hyderabad. And they are the ones who left a huge footprint into the city when it comes to the food, when it comes to the culture, architecture. A lot of what we see in the city today is what was left behind by the Nizams of Hyderabad. They ruled, they were the largest princely state of India. And just to give you a sense of scale, the GDP or the tax that was being collected from the state of Hyderabad was more than the GDP of England and Scotland put together at one point of time. The last Nizam was the richest man in the world, and the size of the territory was such that you could take about 225 princely states of North India and combine it, and it would still be smaller than the state of Hyderabad. And they ruled also for a very long time. So all the way from 1724 till 1948, till 1 year after India got its independence, the city was ruled by the Nizams, and they have left behind, the legacy that we see today. And what essentially Hyderabad stands for is the intermingling of several cultures. And both the Qutub Shahi dynasty as well as the Asaf Jahi dynasty had a very, very liberal outlook. There was very, very few instances of forcible conversions, etc. In fact, after the fall of the Mughal Empire in the north, a lot of the people who lost their jobs, moved down to the south. So Hyderabad became the home because the Nizam was more than happy to absorb all these people. So you had people moving in from Gujarat, from Agra, from Rajasthan, and all these people came here and found patronage with the Nizam. And therefore, the city of Hyderabad itself became a hugely cosmopolitan place with a lot of emphasis on working with each other very, very comfortably. And a city's, there was this thing about being a Hyderabadi, which became very, very important over a period of time. And it is a city where the north meets the south. I'm going to show you the map of India in a little while, and you will also understand geographically how the city is kind of the bridge city between the north and the south. Very, very syncretic culture, very harmonious relationship between the different communities. We have a 40% Muslim population here. There's a significant population in terms of absolute numbers of the Sikh community. There's a particular area where the British actually were there, which left behind, a Christianity in its wake. So it is a very, very syncretic culture. And we say that, a Hyderabadi never forgets, a Hyderabadi man especially will never give up two things. He won't give up his sherwani, which is the dress that they wear. And more importantly, he won't give up the biryani. Biryani is the most famous dish of Hyderabad. It's a dish where rice and meat are cooked together with a whole lot of spices. And they say that, Hyderabadi man will give up anything except these two things. Since the mid-90s, it has been home to a lot of software companies, largely due to the fact that we had a chief minister who decided that he wants to attract people, he wants to attract investments from across the world, especially America. And he invited a whole lot of companies here, gave away land at very, very low prices, very big tax breaks, and his aim was to create a lot of jobs here. And therefore he took over the western part of the city, which had just got rocks and shrubs and nothing much else, and he created what we know as Cyberabad. Okay, coming to what Hyderabad offers to the traveler, firstly let's discuss the weather. How hot does Hyderabad get? Apart from April and May and early part of June, where it's fairly difficult to walk around outside, temperatures reach 40 degrees Celsius, which, it can go up to about 115, 120 Fahrenheit on some days. And apart from that, the rest of the months, actually, Hyderabad has a very, very pleasant climate. It's dry heat, so you don't really sweat much. It's not very humid. In the month of June, around 8th of June, we get the monsoon. So immediately after the monsoons hit Hyderabad, and it's not very, very severe monsoons like it is there in the coast where it rains all the time. It usually rains either early morning or late evening and leaves behind very, very pleasant weather. But of course, April, May is completely avoidable in Hyderabad. The city has seen a rebirth as a leisure destination. It's still relatively less popular compared to the Golden Triangle or parts of Rajasthan or Kerala, and therefore a lot of people actually find it very appealing because it's a very real city. You don't see too many travelers around, and a lot of people believe that they are actually discovering Hyderabad on their trip because it's not inundated with other tourists. We've had a lot of publicity of the city around the reopening of the Falaknuma Palace. The Falaknuma Palace used to belong to the Nizams and has been leased to the Taj Group. And they reopened it after about 10 years of a huge restoration project as the Falaknuma Palace, which has about 60 odd rooms. And there's been a lot of publicity around the reopening of the palace. And we've had many guests coming into the city because they have read about the Falaknuma Palace and they come here just to stay at the Falaknuma Palace. The city definitely retains its old world charm, and it's very, very welcoming. The whole culture of the city is that, any outsider is welcome because they're used to people coming from across the country and across the world. And it's a fairly laid back city. Markets don't open till about 11:30, 12 in the afternoon almost. And everything, at least in the old city, moves at a very, very slow pace, and which is perfect for a traveler. It has a range of stay options. It has, the Falaknuma Palace, of course, is there, but we have a lot of other modern options in the middle of the city. And of course, in the high-tech city, a lot of business hotels are also there. What is lacking in Hyderabad, unfortunately, is any kind of boutique hotel where, a smaller house or a haveli or a small palace has been converted into a stay option. We don't have any such options in Hyderabad yet. It has a lot to offer for different travelers. For the history lovers, you have the Golconda Fort, you have the tombs, the whole areas around the Charminar. We have a lot of places like that, but the city also hides a lot of its treasures. The city has developed very dramatically in the last about 15, 20 years. So a lot of, places have become almost like residential places around the historical places. So you kind of wind down the residential area and come across this beautiful site, which is like, say, for example, the Paiga tombs, or any such place which seems like it's not really in the middle of the tourist area. It has a lot of the palaces. The Nizams were known for their magnificent palaces. Uh, Two of them have, the Chamala Palace and the Falaknuma Palace have undergone huge amount of restoration, but apart from that, there are other palaces as well. It also appeals a lot to the people who have read the book The White Mughals, which seems to affect people very emotionally as well. It's a story of a British resident who was basically like the ambassador of the East India Company, who was based in the court of the Nizam. And he fell in love with the Prime Minister's grandniece. And the whole tragic love story of a white person falling in love with the Indian, and all the intrigues that it had with it, and what happened to the children. And it's a historical novel which was brought to life by William Dalrymple, and a lot of the places mentioned in the book continue to be there. And the British residency, which is the main hub of where the story took place, that has seen a lot of restoration efforts in the last couple of years, and therefore it's actually worth a visit. And we've had many people, especially from England, who come here with the intention of revisiting the places mentioned in the book. There is a British history in this region, may not be as strong as, say, a Calcutta or certain other parts of, or say, Chennai, but we do have a Sikandrabad area, which was the British area, almost like White Town. And till around independence, unless you were white or nobility, you were actually not allowed to go into the Sikandrabad area. So the Sikandrabad area does have a lot of colonial architecture. It has clock towers, it has a lot of churches. And we've had guests who have come back, because they're trying to trace either their grandparents or great grandparents, or they've had stories of somebody being born here or served here or married in one of the churches there. So we've had some interest shown for people who are trying to trace back their history as well. Also, the city is quite close to a couple of Buddhist sites, Nagarjuna Sagar for sure, and also historically significant towns like Warangal and Bidar. Warangal was the capital of the Kakatiya rulers, who were the Hindu rulers who ruled around the 1300s. And then Bidar, which was like the Qutub Shahi, we had even in Bidar, the Bahmani kingdom actually had the capital, and then the Barid Shahi dynasty later on took over. And so it's historically significant towns where you can actually drive down for 3 hours, visit the town, and come back to Hyderabad and do the night stay there. Okay, these are some of the pictures. This is another view of the Golconda Fort. This is, of course, the bustling bazaars of Charminar area, which look very, very different right now with everything closed. This is the picture before the restoration of the Koti Women's College, which used to be the former British residency, where built by James Kirkpatrick, the main person in the White Mughal story. This is Raymond's tomb, who was a French was a French mercenary who used to work under the Nizams, and mentioned very, very specifically about his role and what happened between him and the British, etc. There was a period in Hyderabad, actually a very, very small period of about 12 years, where there was pretty much French rule, you can say. I mean, they were ruling on behalf of the Nizams. And if a couple of battles had gone one way or the other way, we may have ended up becoming a French colony like Pondicherry. But the British won a couple of the crucial battles. These are some of the hidden treasures. We have, most of these monuments about 250, some are a little older than that. These are the Paiga tombs on the right, and on the left is the Purani Eidgah. This is the Toli Masjid, which was built, by a person who used the funds that he earned building the big Mecca Masjid, which is the biggest mosque of South India. Very, much smaller in scale, but in extremely intricate stucco work, both inside and outside of the mosque. These are some of the visuals of the old houses of the nobility who used to live in Hyderabad. So, magnificent houses, which unfortunately have not been really looked after well. So, this is a walk that we do in the old city called the Hidden Hyderabad Walk, where you walk around. It's a little bit of a sad tour because you see the former glory and you see that it is actually not being looked after well. This is the doll's house, which was built by James Kirkpatrick for his, well, we don't know whether he built it for his children or show it as a model to his wife, which has recently been restored. One of the people who read the book from America, a businessman, he was very fascinated by the story, and he immediately, donated $1 million, and he said that the dollhouse should be restored. And so this is, a model of the British residency built to scale. This is the Bidar Fort, which is the city I was telling you, which is about 3 hours from Hyderabad. So, Hyderabad's actually a better access point to the rest of Deccan than Bangalore, which is the headquarters of Karnataka state. But actually, Bidar is closer to Hyderabad than it is to Bangalore. These are, you can see, if you have a good enough screen, you can see the tile work on the Gawan Madrasa, which is one of the most magnificent universities which existed in the 14th century. For the lovers of arts and crafts, we have a lot of museums, as the Salarjung Museum, City Museum. We have a lot of art galleries. The art scene in Hyderabad is also quite important. But when it comes to crafts, we have weaving techniques. We have villages in the outskirts of the city completely dedicated to styles like ikat. We have a lot of metal craft, bidri, which is silver inlay work done on black metal, pemberti, which is beaten brass work, which you see along, on the pillars of temples, etc. We have scroll paintings similar to the ones in Rajasthan, made by a particular village which is about 110 kilometers. But a few of the families actually continue that craft in Hyderabad also. Of course, you have the bustling bazaars, bangles. It's Hyderabad's the bangle capital of the country. Lots of jewelry. It's known as the Pearl City because of the huge number of pearls that are actually processed here. So, way back from the time of the Persians, we've had pearls coming into Hyderabad, and they say that even today, out of every 10 pearls that are sold in the world, 6 pass through Hyderabad. So, the polishing of the pearl, the cleaning of the pearls, the grading of the pearls, and most importantly, the one which takes a lot of effort is the making of the hole in the pearl if you want to string it. And even today, any pearl which is less than 2 millimeter diameter is actually, the hole is made by hand. It cannot be done by machine. And of course, you have ittar perfumes, you have, fancy lace borders, you have everything colorful that you associate with India in the old city. We have a gentleman called Jagdish Mittal, who has the most magnificent Indian miniature painting collection. It's not always easy to get into see the collection, but if he is agreeable and available, it's a must see for people who are into Indian miniatures. This is the old city workshops where bling is created one by one. These are some of the shops which sell pearls. On the left is the beaten metal craft, and on the right is the scroll painter who does these long scrolls, but now they also do smaller paintings. These are some of the weaving workshops. This is in the village about 60 kilometers outside of Hyderabad, where they practice ikat, where the threads are actually dyed and then made into a pattern before they go onto the loom and create what we traditionally know as the ikat fabric. This is some of the embroidery work being done in the old city. We also emphasize a lot on, getting a sense of what Hyderabadi life is like. And, we have a lot of tours which are around that. And so this is a Haveli, which is a private home of, she's actually a designer. And, we can actually go into her house and see her beautiful, this is a 200+ year old house. There are lots of festivals in Hyderabad. So this is the Ganesh festival, the Elephant God festival, which a lot of people are a little surprised to know that Ganesh festival is very, very important in Hyderabad. But every year it seems to be getting bigger and bigger. Neighboring state of Maharashtra, everyone knows that Ganesh festival is big, but in Hyderabad you have a huge area dedicated to the making of these Ganesh statues. And the 10 days of the festival, the city completely comes to life with this festival. We have a few festivals which are very specific to this region, and one of the most important ones, especially since the formation of the state of Telangana, some of the local festivals have come more to the fore because the government is also trying to establish its own unique identity. This is called Bonalu, where in the month of July, August, we have about 6 weekends, where each weekend there's a procession which is carried out from to a particular temple, a Kali temple, which is the main temple. And usually women and sometimes men carry these big pots on their head filled with food to offer. And this is supposed to basically thank the goddess, which started about 250 years ago, after a big famine hit this area. And people prayed to the goddess and said that, if the famine goes away, we'll offer you food. So that tradition continues even today, and it's become a very, very big festival in the last 5 years. This is, of course, the Muharram observances. I won't call it a celebration because it's like Easter. It's basically a mourning festival. And it's done a lot by the Shia Muslims. So there's a huge Shia community here. And, the 10 days of Muharram, of course, the dates keep changing. There are these big, huge alams, or, you can call it standards, which are displayed. And it's a very, very beautiful morning hall with Persian tiles in the background that you can see. And people from all communities come here and, pray. And there are lots of interesting stories around some of the things that happen at that time. And so at that time, we do a special walk around these areas. Hyderabad's, a big city, and it just seems to keep spreading. But if you go far enough, if you travel about an hour and a half, 2 hours, you will reach the true rural places. So we have a few rural experiences where you can meet the Lambada or the Banjara community, who are the nomadic community, who have a very, very different way of life. If you see on the left, there's a guy on top of the tree who's tapping toddy, which it's quite near actually. And on the right, we have had people who have been interested in seeing very simple things, like who are the people who paint on the trucks, and all the colorful things that happen on auto rickshaws and tuk-tuks and trucks in India. We take people to places like that as well. Just simple, everyday life as well. Religion, of course, is important in Hyderabad as it is in many parts of the country. And this is the Sufi. This is a Sufi shrine called Pahade Sharif. We have a lot of Sufi shrines here, and Sufism is, the most esoteric part of Islam, and associated with music, with mystic healing. And the shrines themselves tend to be very beautiful, usually located on top of hillocks, so very picturesque as well. We also have an opportunity for people to play golf with the backdrop of the Golconda Fort in the back. I know it's not a great picture, but this is the Golconda Fort, and this is a full golf course. We have limited access to it, and if we know in advance, we can organize a round of golf for people. The most amazing thing of Hyderabad, again, something that is not really very well known, are the heritage rock sites. So we have about 23 rock sites in Hyderabad, which are actually have been given the status of heritage rocks sites. And these rocks date back to 2.5 billion years. So there are these humongous, huge rocks, and we do walks around the rocks. We have one walk around the area that I'm showing you, which is called the Faith Amongst the Rocks, because amongst the rocks you have, we have a Sufi shrine, we have a Hindu temple, we have another mystic Baba who meditated for 10 days in one of these caves. So a lot of stories around the rocks, which make it a very interesting experience. And they're not very far from the city. They're actually in the middle of, very close to high-tech city. And also it's not a very difficult walk to do. I mean, some of the rock walks can be difficult, but the ones that we do tend to be something that you can do, even people with basic fitness levels can do. Just to give you a sense of the scale, the rock that you see in the backdrop, which looks kind of like a tortoise, this is a closer up shot. So they're like very, very huge in size, and quite a fascinating experience for people. Of course, my favorite topic, and for people in India who've had their lunch 3 hours ago, this is going to be a little difficult. The city of Hyderabad is known as the city of foodies. I mean, you have people here sitting and discussing where you get the best biryani, where you get the best kebab. There are arguments which happen and make and break friendships, and people will sit around, discuss over a cup of tea where you should go for lunch and dinner, etc. Of course, people know about the Hyderabadi food, which is associated with the Nizami food, where you get a lot of Hyderabadi biryani and kebabs, etc. But the food of Andhra, which is the coastal area that we were part of the former state, and Telangana, which is the new state, which is actually very, very spicy, much spicier than many other parts of the country. A lot of people come here just to try the food here. And of course, you have a lot of Irani cafes where you can sip a cup of tea and have biscuits and just see the world go by. Because of the high-tech city, we have a lot of international food as well. So we have modern coffee shops, and we have some interesting boutique kind of coffee shops as well, and bakeries, etc., which do very good business as well. We do a lot of tours around the local spice and vegetable markets to savor the local street food for people who are keen to do that. This is one of our street food experiences. This is snack making factory on the left, and a pickle making factory, pickle shop actually on the right. Again, snacks on the right is the Irani samosas, which are these miniature samosas where you can pop in almost a dozen at one shot. We also have tours where we go to the vegetable market, pick up stuff, pick up vegetables, go to a local home and do some cooking demos, etc. Coming to the position of Hyderabad. So most people who know India will know that these 5 states tend to be known as the southern states, and the rest, and it's mostly based on language. The North Indian states are unified by the language of Hindi, and South Indian states have their own specific language. So if you consider this as South and this as North, and you see Hyderabad's actually it's almost center of India. It's the place where the North meets the South. In terms of access also, if you look at it, connectivity to the rest of the country, it's just under 2 hours away from North India, Delhi, Lucknow, Jaipur, Varanasi, and I'm only talking about direct flights. And therefore, as a city, you can actually combine it with any part of the country. You can combine it with the North Indian itinerary, you can combine it with the Central Indian itinerary, combine it with the West, and of course, South and East as well. Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Indore, everything is connected by direct flights. In Nagpur and Raipur, which connect to tiger resorts, we've had quite a few guests who have done a tiger safari and come to Hyderabad, or the reverse. Of course, Goa is just an hour away, and even places like Kolkata, Bhubaneswar are connected by direct flights. And Cochin, Pondicherry has a direct flight to Hyderabad since the last year and a half. And Madurai, Mangalore, a lot of places in the south also connect to Hyderabad, and of course Chennai, Bangalore, almost neighbors. In recent times, the biggest change that has happened is that Hampi, which was a little out of bounds for a lot of the guests, got connected to the airport Vidyanagar, and we have direct flights to Hampi from Hyderabad. And also Aurangabad, which provides access to the Ajanta and Ellora caves, is connected now by the same airlines called TrueJet. And therefore, connecting Deccan, with these places. And Hampi has given us a lot of guests, because a lot of, Hampi is in the news now, and a lot of people go to Hampi and come to Hyderabad or access Hampi from Hyderabad. When it comes to international connectivity, it's actually a perfect entry point or an exit point. We've had a world-class international airport for the past about more than 10 years now, and it's consistently ranked, number one in the 5 to 15 million passenger category. We have daily flights from London. We have 7 daily flights, direct flights from Dubai and Sharjah. We have other flights from Abu Dhabi, Doha. So the Middle East is really well connected because traditionally we've had a lot of people working, in the Middle East coming from Hyderabad. Singapore, Malaysia, if you look at the eastern side, that is also connected. We have flights to Hong Kong and daily flights to Malaysia as well. And therefore, be it a relaxing end to an, very, very active holiday, or, as a starting point, it actually, you can put Hyderabad with any itinerary of the country. A little bit about detours. Formed the company in 2008. We started operations sometime in October. And the whole focus was on experiential tourism. I myself started the company as a way to showcase the country differently, showcase the city differently. My biggest passion was food, and therefore I felt that food can be a brilliant entry point. It can be a focus of how to explain the country and explain the culture and religion, etc., and the connections with food. From there, it got built with focus on history, etc. And therefore, I started this company knowing very clearly that we're going to do very, very small group, personalized, very customized tours, and therefore kept the group sizes between 1 and 5 people only. We do experiences in Hyderabad, Bidar, Warangal. Gulbarga is a bit of a stretch, but we can come back on the same day. Vizag is a neighboring state, in the neighboring state, and we've had requests in the last, not too many, but we've had specific requests for people who wanted to do Buddhist trails, which is quite big around Vizag. So we don't have a setup there, but we can put together some tours if we get enough notice. How are we different? We focus a lot on storytelling. We try and find offbeat experiences and locations. We love places where other tourists don't go. A lot of research on the region. The role of the tour company, that's the most critical according to us. Very, very customized tours. We have a lot of flexibility. Even while the tour is going on, if the guest wants to do something else, we're happy to chop and change. And of course, it's driven by passion. It's been my passion, which is why I gave up my corporate life and came and did this. Okay, so just to end this part, I'd like to show you a small video which will hopefully give you a glimpse into the city. 1 second. Okay, just before we end, just want to tell you the current situation. Of course, we are not doing any tours right now. Like everybody else in the world, we really don't know where things stand, where we are going. Um, in terms of numbers in the state of Telangana, we have about close to about 1,400 infected people infected with COVID. Within Hyderabad, we have certain pockets where we've seen a lot of infections. It's just under 500 people who are infected right now. So we again have a lockdown till 29th of May. We don't know whether it's going to be extended, but we have almost a complete lockdown. One of the important reasons for that is also because of the festival of, the Ramzan month is going on, and Eid is likely to be on 23rd, 24th. I think the government is wanting to make sure that that festival goes out without too much of people coming together and increasing the risk of infection. But the government of India has put together a government of Telangana, sorry, has put together, and I'd just like to play that as well.
Jonty, we can't see the video.
Oh, you can't? Okay.
No.
Sorry,
I think you'll have to switch the screen.
Okay, I am going to do that in a second. Okay, can you see it now?
No, not yet. No.
Okay, that's great. Okay. Okay, I'm going to try one more time. Otherwise, we will just give it up.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay, is it working now?
Yeah, it's working now.
So yeah, thank you. That was it from me. shall we open it to questions now?
Yeah. Thank you, Jonty. Thank you so much. Before we move on to the question and answer session, this was such an insightful presentation. And, as you mentioned early on, Hyderabad is truly a one-stop destination for all kinds of travelers. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you do there in Hyderabad. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And yeah, now we open the floor for the Q&A, and I can read out the questions to you, and then you can.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, okay. So